Hey there, guys. It's Malorian. It is time for a Paintisode. I know I said on there, I'm just trying to move up my chair. I know I said on the Google YouTubers blah 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 page that we wouldn't be doing a Paintisode today. However, that was because we're gonna have some friends over for some board games. Sorry, I just crammed down a chocolate pretzel before this, and now I'm immediately regretting it. Had some friends over for some board games. Thought it'd be going a lot longer, and because of kids and stuff like that, we had to cut it shorter. And now it's time for a Paintisode. So that's awesome because I have painting I need to get done. For those who are not used to a Paintisode, what we're doing here is you're not supposed to really watch. Although people apparently like watching the fish, I should actually just like turn this and like zoom in on the fish. But the main idea here is that I'm just going to be painting for an hour and talking about hobby stuff. While listening to this, you can be pulling out your own stuff and painting that. And normally I aim for about an hour, but I have a hard set target I need to have done for this Paintisode. I am part of a painting tale, and unfortunately, because of listening or watching a lot of Game of Thrones, I'm behind schedule right now. So I need to get something painted. So what I'm going to be working on is a War Machine Defender. So this is one I have painted, and I'm going to be painting up a second one. Dun, dun, dun. A while back, this would be thought as one of the best War Machine jacks, especially for Signar. Now that you have the Storm Walls, not so much. But I am looking at running a little bit more Siege and also Sloan, so it'll be a little bit more important. But don't worry, I'm going to be talking a little bit about War Machine. I'll be talking a little bit about Warhammer. If you want me to talk about anything specific, this is why I do it live, so post it up there and we'll talk about that as well. So the first thing I want to talk about is the return of Once Bitten. So he wasn't gone for all that long. That was good to see. And thank you to all you guys there that heeded the call and got out there and sent those messages to Once Bitten. In his battle report today, he said he was inundated with them. So it looks like we did our job. We got him back already. And not only did he do a Paintisode, not only did he do a battle report already, but he was also on a brand new show. So Warhammer Weekly, that used to be on Wednesdays, that one's still on a little bit of a hiatus, but Whoopi, who was one of the members of the original Warhammer Weekly, has decided to start up his own show with Naren Zaid, and they were calling it Hammer Bros. So they had their first show today. Once Bitten was their guest on there, so that was really cool to see him, not only back, but they're talking about Nagash and stuff. Unfortunately, I was not able to watch all of it yet. I had really the choice. Either I could watch their show, or I could do a Paintisode. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Paintisode, and then tomorrow at work, then I'll listen to their show. Because I've been wondering for a while what Once Bitten's feelings would be on the new Nagash book. I have a mixture of competitive and fun play that I do, but Once Bitten, it really is focused on the competitive side. So really interested to see what he's going to have to say there. So I guess I'll have to wait till tomorrow. But either way, really happy to see the legend return. On a side note, then talking about the new show there, it's called Hammer Bros, and the two of them are doing that, and it's also good to see that come up again. Now, wasn't really happy to see it on a Monday. Hopefully they can move it back to Wednesday. I don't know if that was because of Once Bitten or if one of their own schedules made it on a Monday. because then clearly, I mean, if we're doing the Paintisode and that at basically the same time, it could be kind of an issue. Maybe it could work out, right? Maybe if first it's their show and then I run my show. I don't know. We'll see. I'm still having a hard time even keeping this as a good routine. So maybe I'm not even needing to keep this as a real concern. But it would be probably a lot easier for everyone. But we'll see what happens. It's just their first show. And maybe in the show they say there, oh, next week will be Tuesday. Next week will be whatever. So we'll have to kind of see what happens there. It's also going to be neat to see if Naren Zaid can somehow change my view of him so that he's not the pony guy. Of course, he's the one that was originally there running the My Little Pony army. And, man, it's one of those things where I get told by everybody, you know what, it's just like one thing he did that shouldn't define him. He's really into this and this and this. But, man, it's just one of those things that you do, and it just sticks with you, right? So just like how I could easily do dwarves for the next 2 years, people would still see me as the orc and goblin guy. Unfortunately, well, luckily for me, unfortunately for him, looks like his one is going to be the My Little Pony guy. But we'll see. You know, doing that show might be able to change that. I think I've talked enough about Nagash on other shows that podcasts or whatever, Paintisodes, that I'm probably not going to talk about too much about the Nagash right now. One thing I did notice they talked about on their show there was the idea that the new lore really isn't all that great. Sure, if you run it on Nagash, then it's really powerful because, hey, you get triple points and triple range. But if you run on anything else, it's really not that crazy. I do kind of agree and disagree with that. That was like only like the first 5 minutes of the show I watched. So anything past that, I don't know what they really talked about. But to me, if you're talking about your main mage, yes, that's correct. You probably do not want to do the Lore of Undeath unless you're just having fun. A lot of the casting values are too high. You just can't get anything that effective. And you're probably better off going with one of the regular lores. Now, I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. Where it does really come into effect is when it's on a secondary kind of support mage. So, unfortunately, I don't run those, so I can't really show you guys a good example. But it's for the guys like Shimmergloom that take multiple mages. And so you got your main level 4 that's doing all their cool stuff, especially if you have multiple arcane items that you want to get in there, then you'll be taking a secondary mage. And in that case, why not take the Lore of Undeath? I know from playing vampire accounts, it is really powerful to raise up little units of skeletons that are only there to get in the way. You know, they're not going to do anything great or fancy, but you're just going to raise them up just where your opponent wants to move or charge or whatever. And it's usually, if you're trying to get the small stuff, it's a pretty low casting value. So sure, if you want to make it Terrorgeist or something like that, that's a lot. But if you just want to go for one of the small things, sure, that's pretty easy. Oh, and of course my nose is going to start running now. Why? Should have known. It's all right. We'll battle through it. So another thing I got going for me is I haven't been able to do any fantasy for a while. Had a whole bunch of War Machine at a tournament I was running, and then a tournament I was in. Lots of reports. You guys, I had one post saying, okay, enough with the War Machine, or, you know, get back to the fantasy. And I do understand that, but, you know, when there's tournaments, there's going to be a big flood of reports. But I am going to be having more fantasy coming up. Actually, tomorrow I have arranged one of the games. We were actually supposed to be playing during my tournament, but then I decided, you know what, it's just too much. I can't run the tournament and play a game at the same time, especially when it looked like I'd have to be the ringer. So we rescheduled it for tomorrow, and this one, I don't know if I can even say I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be 2,500 points. I'm going to be pulling out the dwarves, and this one here is kind of a challenge game where whenever I do my dwarves, he would always ask, hey, why aren't you using your anvil? And I'd say, because the anvil's garbage. I use it a lot in the last book, but this new book, it's just a waste of points. And he always wanted me to use it, and eventually the way I stopped him from asking, I said, all right, if you come and play me, because I knew he was a local guy, so that's not like saying, hey, guy across the world, if you want to play me, go ahead, I'll use the anvil. This guy is nice and close. And so I said to him, hey, if you want me the anvil, sure, come and play against me, and then I'll use it. Well, we're finally going to play the game. And man, I just do not want to use that model. It just does nothing well anymore. Sure, if I could sneak off that +1 armor, it might be interesting. But really, I'm going to be spending all these points that might save me one model. Or if I go for the magic missile, I'll be like, yeah, throw all my dice, maybe kill some chaff. And instead, I just could have taken like 3 more gyrocopters. It's just why? Hopefully it's not coming up choppy for you guys. I am trying to make a battle report from my tournament at the same time, so it could be using up some resources. So if it is getting choppy, please make a post so I kind of know. I can always pause that and restart it. Just did a little look here to see if we had any comments, and I have no comments so far. So again, if you guys want me to talk about War Machine, let me know. If you want me to talk about Orcs and Goblins, let me know, and I'll bring that up. In the meantime, the thing I am going to talk about first is I'm going to talk about Anthony and the Sustainable Center and his new campaign he's talking about. So for him, he is looking into Universal Battle. So this is a program online where you can go on and make up your army and basically just play it on there. You have the boards, there's a dice random generator, and really the big key is that you could be playing people across the world, right? If I want to play against One Spitten right now, I could do a universal battle against them way over there. So I've talked about a little bit about universal battle before, but the interesting thing that he did is propose that we actually get like a league or tournament going. So if there was enough people interested, and there were, he said that he would do a video explaining how to use Universal Battle. And that was really good. I was really glad to see that video. I went over and checked it out because I've always kind of looked at Universal Battle, but it kind of bothers me at a core level so that I really didn't want to get into it. And so a lot of the core mechanics, I didn't really understand how some of the things would be placed on and the models and the graphics. But his video is really good for showing how that all works. One of the things I was kind of disappointed to see is that it's not completely free. If you want to play, go ahead. Sure, it's free. But if you want to access some of the other higher graphics, well, you're going to have to actually then pay to get this subscription, basically, and then you can access all the stuff. And you can either do it for a month or pay marginally more and just buy it forever type thing. So that looks like that'd be the better way to go, but that could be really, really interesting. So first of all, it would open up a lot more battle reports, because where right now people are limited to time and location and all the rest of it. At any time, if somebody wants a game, they can just play against them from across the world. So you'll see a lot more battle reports coming up because of that. And so I'm always thumbs up for more battle reports. And then as well, you can start seeing some of these more members of the community taking part with each other. Like I said, it could be in this online tournament, and it'd be, me versus Whoopi, and it'd be Once Bitten versus Nick of Long Island Wargaming, or whatever, right? So that could be really interesting. As far as my own standing with it, I don't know if I could stand playing it. My big thing with these is that when I start doing these things online, especially when it's something that takes extra time, the rolling is really fast. You say, roll this many D6s, and it does it right away. But it's going to be one of the things where, okay, I have to like slide over this ruler, rotate it to the right thing, move over my block this way. It's going to be like, man, I could just be doing this on the table and be going so much faster. All right, so we do have a comment now from War General T, and he's asking what my build is for my dwarves, trying to get my secret tech. I see what you're after. Sure, I should be able to remember what my list is. So starting with my anvil, I have to take an anvil because that's what the whole game's about. So once you take an anvil, which is a rune lord and a really expensive anvil, then I need to put something worthwhile on them. And so I'm going to want to put on the Dispel Scroll rune, so get that guy on there. And then as well, past that, I need to keep the guy alive. He used to be with the FAQ toughness 10 and a 4+ ward and all this cool stuff. Well, now he's only toughness 5 and a 5+ ward. So he really isn't that survivable. Luckily, there's a thing called the Rune of Shielding. And what that does for you is it is going to give you a 2+ ward against all range attacks. And that is absolutely key. I mean, if it wasn't for that rune, I would even just probably refuse the game. I'd be like, you know what? This just isn't worth going. You can do a lot more runes after that, but really it just isn't worth it. Just those 2 runes, done. And again, sorry, a little bit stuffy here. I'm so tired, to be honest. I should probably be in bed, but I need to get this done. I have to get my points painted for the month, and we got to do a Paintisode, so the 2 work together. But anyway, so that's the Lord there. Very, very simple. Past that, I have my Thane BSB. He is going to have the Master and Grommel for a 1+ save, a great weapon, and I believe I did have some cool runes on him before, but then I dropped them to make sure I get the points for the other stuff I wanted to get. Then comes into the core. I will have a horde of great weapon guys, great weapon warriors, and they are going to be, 40 of them. Banner, that's pretty much it. And then I'm also going to be having a unit of 20 Thunderers with shields and a banner. That's pretty much just for a Watchtower and for Blood and Glory, trying to get not only another banner in there, but also a good strong unit to go inside the Watchtower. It also works well for the 25% core, because when you do the horde of great weapons at 2,500 points, that's not enough to get your 25% core. So you need something else in there anyway. And when you do these guys, which really do fit that role very well, they could be a bunker when you have a regular non-stupid anvil guy. And then really inside that Watchtower, they just do very well. You come in, they get the 5+ parry, and then once you fail, they push you back out, they shoot you up, and rinse and repeat. So, yeah, we'll see how they do. Otherwise, I have 40 hammerers with banner. I believe I have 3 gyrocopters. I think my first version had 4, but I had to drop one. I don't know. You guys will see tomorrow when I do the battle. But past that, then we get into the war machines. I'm going to have 2 cannons. I'm going to have my 2 organ guns. and then a flame cannon, because the flame cannons are just fantastic. I believe that's the 2,500 points. I may be forgetting something, but otherwise, that's my build. He will be playing Empire. We were asking about how crazy we're going to be making the lists, and I said, hey, man, crush me all you want. I'm in the interesting situation where in this challenge, I'm basically just showing how the anvil is garbage. So the more you crush me, the more kind of just shows or lends weight to it. So he says he's going to be taking one that's, competitive, but not win at all costs. So that's good. It'll make it for a more fun game as well. And as always, we'll have to see what type of mission we get, right? The mission could really change things up in a heartbeat. I'm going to check again for comments. If nothing else, I have another topic I want to talk about on tournaments in general. So we'll refresh this, see if you have any other questions. Again, you can always just post them, and I'll get to them later. And do we? Make sure I mute that. No other questions, so we'll go into this. So, like I said, I was at the War Machine tournament, and as part of that, you go on through the rounds, and there's usually, if there's 16 people, there'll be 4 rounds. If there is more than that, there'll be 5. You could get more, if there's 64 or whatever, but then we're talking really, really big tournaments. But anyway, what you get in War Machine is drops. And what that really is a whole idea where, because you're not getting points so much for games as it really is just a win-loss system, if you lose a game in War Machine, you're not going to get first. And even though you could play on and get second or whatever, the system isn't really worked out to care who comes in second, who comes in third. Really, people just care about who is on the top tables and who won the game. So really, like I was saying, once somebody loses a game, you start seeing those drops. Now, you always see those in the steamrollers, or usually, and in this one, it was really pronounced. Now, keep in mind, it was kind of being held in a smaller town, so a lot of out-of-towners there that had to worry about driving back home and wanting to drive with the sun and trying to get back for supper and all that stuff. But still, wow, I was surprised by how many people dropped. In fact, after about half the people dropped, I was like, you know what? I've already lost enough. I'm just going to go home, too. I'm going to make the wife happy. I'm going to drive safe. Plus, I was a little bit on tilt as well. But the big comparison I want to make is that you don't see that in fantasy. In fantasy, we don't call it dropping. We call it rage quitting, right? If you decide, like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to leave the tournament, it's usually nobody says, like, oh, yeah, this guy, oh, he lost the game, so he just decided to go home and have supper. No. This guy lost the game, so he just rage quit, right? He just kind of gave up. And it's just this huge different mentality between the two groups. I mean, really, it's really kind of the same thing, right? I just, whatever, I'm dropping. I'm not playing anymore in this tournament. But it's so accepted for War Machine and not really accepted in fantasy. Now, another kind of reason for that, to kind of defend it, is the whole idea that in War Machine, it doesn't really matter if somebody drops. If somebody drops, you have buys. So really, whoever's in last place, they're not going to play anyone, but they're just given a win. And it doesn't really throw things off. It's just, hey, you guy there on the bottom, you just get a free win. In fantasy, you could do that too, but it's kind of a bigger deal. I mean, I know there are tournaments that do buys, but first of all, the games are longer. So to just stand around there for, 3 hours, It's a bigger deal than, you know, what could just be an hour and a half for the fantasy game. So that's one part of it. Man, it's just is so weird. I mean, really, I have in all the tournaments I've gone to for fantasy, I can only think of 2 people that ever dropped. There was one guy who was just a complete jerk, and when people called him out on it, then he just decided he was going to rage quit and leave. And then there are these other guys where they came in from out of town. They were paired up against each other because, you know, the TO did make sure that you weren't facing guys that you drove in with. And they got pissed off, you know, like, why'd I drive all this way just to play against my buddy? And so instead of playing each other, they just didn't play. And the TO took offense to this and actually awarded both of them a loss. And yeah, that kind of pissed them off, and they decided to drop. They're just going to rage quit and leave. And again, I mean, that's the thing where, oh, wow, can you believe it? These guys rage quit. You know, it's just this huge, massive thing. But in War Machine, oh, whatever. Yeah, these guys left. No big deal. And in fact, for your kind of search to try and get first place, whatever, right? If somebody leaves, it just means that your status will be that much higher. So I know it's just. Anyway, I probably talked about that. I find it really interesting because I'm more of a stats guy. I guess that's another thing I could talk about. Anthony was talking about dwarves on the thing there, and he's talking about some math. And he says, oh, yeah, if you go and you have the rune of slowness, the average that you're going to be slowed down is about 3.5 inches, going by the math. But what is it if you go 2 runes of slowness? So it's 2d6, take the highest. First of all, I was surprised at Anthony that he wouldn't know the math to figure that out. And then I was surprised by all the others who could not figure it out either. The ones who came out with incorrect answers, the ones who just kind of wrote something silly because they just more than likely had no idea. I know, it's one of these simple things where if you can't figure out the math behind these things, then how do you figure out the worth, right? If you're trying to decide, oh, is it worth the points to take 2 runes of slowness, unless you can do that math, how do you really justify it to yourself? Oh, looks like we have a long list of comments here. A second. I'm going to jump. Oh, didn't work at all. I lost light. Is that on this? Oh, no. Technical difficulties. Should have broke this. Well, what do we do? Oh, I just bounced up the light, I think. Oh, come on. Was I broke it at the same time? There I am showing you my gut. Well, that is very, very unfortunate to be losing my light so early. All because my chair wasn't pushed up. Okay, now I have a choice to make. I either can steal that light that lets you see my face, stupid thing, or I can put it here so I can see what I'm painting, but then let me show you what happens. If I put this like here, it's like we're going to do ghost stories. You know, once upon a time, there was a Nurgle demon prince. And yeah, man, what am I going to do? I'll put it here. So it's semi-ghost story, semi-I can see what the hell I'm doing. Wow. Thank you, light. That was bad timing. Those do, though. I've had that light for a while. So anyway, let's get to these questions. And, of course, I waited 3 seconds, so now it's not all showing. Luckily, I have the other page open, so I can just refresh it, and I can see here what you guys posted up. And what we have coming down, we have from Whoopi Womp saying, "Don't worry, Warhammer Weekly will still go off here in a couple of weeks with my new adopted family host, Mr. Mal." Naren Zaid and the Womp is just so bored. Jade Man wanting to just have some fun, carefree Warhammer chats expressing opinions. Most people don't care about it. Warhammer Weekly is coming soon. Also glad to see you make one and that you check out the show. Yeah, I'll be checking it out for sure. Like he kind of just said there, we are going to be kind of doing a show in the meantime as well. Actually, I was interesting you say this because as soon as I saw that Hammer Bros thing, I was actually kind of wondering if that was going to replace the idea that he talked to me about, wondering if I want to kind of help fill in the gap. And so me and him will be doing a show, probably with some other guests, until the full Warhammer Weekly comes back online. I don't know how long it's going to take. I mean, I haven't seen anything from Warhammer Weekly, not Warhammer Weekly, Long Island Wargaming for a while. He is on vacation, so that would be a good reason why. Then again, there are other members. I don't know why the other members aren't going out there to trying to get this stuff out, but meh, it's all good. We'll have fun. Not really sure what other topics we'll come up with, but we'll figure out something good to talk about. These Paintisodes are usually something completely random, just whatever I decide I want to talk about. Oh, this light's so bad. I'm making mistakes now. Couldn't see where I was putting that. And I just filled in the eye. Luckily, with all this rage, that helped to clear things out. Joshua James, what big tournaments do you attend on a yearly basis? Well, that has kind of changed as of late. Before, the big tournaments I'd always go to were out of the basement. They would hold 2 events a year. I would go to Onslaught here. That's also a double yearly event. And then as well, probably for big events, I would be going to Warhammered. Sometimes I go to another one in Calgary. And then, of course, there's Brawler Bash. So I was going to a lot of tournaments, and that's just the bigger ones, right? There's a lot of smaller tournaments I go to as well. And then also the ones that I'm hosting as well, the tournaments I put on. But now lately, as I've said before, I've decided I'm going to be playing Fantasy for fun and then War Machine competitively. Of course, if that's the case, I need to play way better than I did in my last tournament. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I want to hear from Blubber Guts Fatty saying, "Hey, mate, what's your personal take on conversion minis? Taking minis from other armies and changing them up to add a little flair to an army." Jeez, why can't I talk? I have no problem with it whatsoever. If you want to make your army interesting, that's a great way to do it. This is unacceptable. I just cannot look what I'm doing anymore. This has been the problem with my Paintisodes in the past, and why I've gotten very little done is because I can't even see what I'm doing. This stupid, stupid light. And I could run up and grab the other one. You know, it's probably better off me running up and doing that than this just being me talking about bad light for another 40 minutes. So please excuse me, but I'm going to have to run and grab another light. So while you wait, enjoy the fish and Picostomus or whatever that guy identified it as. Light number 2. Yeah, that almost cost me all my viewers. Anyone who was foolish enough to be watching before quickly realized they probably want to go somewhere else. But we are back. We're a professional. This is so bad. All right. Oh, that was not fun. Now I'm out of breath from running around. So I'm going to see if there's any other comments here while I shake this up. Well, this is going to be the worst Paintisode yet. Okay, so no other comments. Oh, here's another one. Oh no, it's just added. He must have edited it. So the model I'm doing is coming along. I've done a couple of the colors now. Again, I like to hear what you guys are working on. I'm so flustered now from this here. I'm one of these guys that I like to think I'm good with rolling with the punches and being able to figure out things around. But man, when little things like this go wrong, it just kind of throws me off my game. And I want to move up my chair again, but I'm worried if I bounce it, it's going to break this light as well. I didn't understand. Like, it's not like it's a regular light with a filament. It has like a halogen loop thing on the top. So unless it actually like broke the loop, I don't understand how this thing broke. Plus, I don't even know where I can get a replacement for it. It's such a weird thing where it's like a double halogen loop. I've never seen this stuff before. I'm not going to bother to order it special. But, all right, we got to get this guy finished. The way that it works for this painting thing is that you have to paint at least 10 points of models a month. This guy here is 9, so since luckily I painted extra in other months, this will be able to sneak me by just doing one model. Yeah, let's go around and do that. One of the things that's kind of great and kind of interesting with this too is I'm at the point now where in the beginning I only had enough War Machine painted to do specific lists. So whereas for fantasy, my orcs and goblins, I can do whatever I want. For War Machine, I have been very limited just by whatever models I have painted. Now, a lot of the tournaments don't require you to be painted, but say for Onslaught, they do add that requirement into the tournament package. You are kind of forced to paint or don't play. And so I've always just painted up exactly what I needed, and I've been extremely limited in that regard. But now that I've done this a couple of times, I'm starting to be on the better side. It's like, oh yeah, I could use this, I could use this. And it sounds really good, but I was actually just thinking about how it's almost a negative as well, because painting up models is one of the things that kind of keeps your mind in the hobby and keeps you interested, because if you paint something up, well, then you want to go to a tournament and you want to use it. Now, one of the problems I have with my orcs and goblins is I have nothing I need to paint, right? So there are no models I want to kind of like, oh wow, I just painted this up and I want to bring it to a tournament. It's more like, okay, let's pull out this old model and we'll give it a spin. So the bad news could be here is, I mean, once I'm done painting all my Signar, I could start getting bored with it. So we'll have to see what happens. Maybe I'll be lucky and they'll have some weird splash release for orcs and goblins, and I can start painting up that I could paint. If I somehow go War Machine painting league, it'd be a fun thing to do. I've never done double Arachnarok. You think I would have pulled off double Arachnarok before I did triple Wyvern, but nope. Somehow, in this crazy end times world, burn happen first. We have another here from Joshua James saying, magnetizing cases. New trays came in today, and I have room. Tedious. It is very tedious work. At least when you're painting models, I mean, I can look at this model and I can say, hey, from when I started, he is different. He is painted. When you go and you're just magnetizing things, be them just on bases to put on trays, or if you're also magnetizing arms and weapons and options like that, you are doing lots and lots of work for pretty much no noticeable difference. I mean, other than the first time you take it to a tournament and it's like, wow, I just need to put this tray and off I go. It really does almost nothing. So when you have a lot to magnetize, I mean, let's say it's worst case scenario, magnetizing your Skaven army or Night Goblin army, or go through hundreds of models. You know, just putting tiny little magnets on the bottom, the sheets on the actual bases. Okay, that's a fast. Hundreds of magnets you have to go through. And then there's also expense. I mean, not only is this something that takes a long time, but also the expense as well. I mean, you get some pretty deal on magnets where you're getting for 5 cents each or something. But again, we're talking hundreds. You know, it's not nothing. It's more the time than anything else. However, once you are done, wow, I mean, what a difference. It means so much. If my orcs and goblins were all magnetized, oh, they would be so much more fun to be taking to tournaments. But then again, one of my problems is that I have so many that I do make a decision to magnetize. I pretty much have to magnetize. That would be a massive, massive work project. Because, I mean, you don't want to have, like, magnetized and the other half not. Not only is it just a little awkward to be like, okay, these guys can stay on the tray, these guys at back into the case. You know, what happens when you get, right? You're like, okay, this model can go on its side over here, but magnetized. You go do it with this other unit, and it'll just spill out. So you do really want to kind of do the entire thing at once, just to avoid any such mistakes. Oh, missed some black there. Normally we have more viewers. I'm actually being, I mean, I know that I lost some with my stuffy nose and all the light issues and stuff like that. But I also realize this is later than usual. I usually try and get this around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock this time. This is more about 10 o'clock. And we've been doing this for about 45 minutes now. Not totally sure how much longer this will take me to do. Looking at the model, I'm guessing this is going to be at least another 45. I got to do it. All right. Let's try and get a good topic to talk about. Just something I can just yap on about, think about what I'm painting. That's what I need. Painless enter. That's special then. And come on, big topics. What's the problem with these metal paints? Here's something right here. It always bothers me how fast they settle up. You know, because there's the big difference there. Okay, good. It's muted. You know, where there's the different components of the paint, and all of them will separate over time. But the metal ones in particular, they're just always separating. And so whenever you're doing a large project like this, where you have to be doing a lot of one of colors, ugh. I mean, I just don't want to have to lose that time to have to stop, reshake it. Because then you waste paint as well, right? The longer you can go and the more you can use your brush, the less you waste the paint, right? If you, every single time, oh, okay, I gotta clean off my brush. I gotta shake up my pot. It's wasting all that paint, and paint's not cheap. All right, let's see what we got here. Nothing. You guys have no questions? All right, that's fair. That's fair. You don't have to have any questions. Another thing that came up at the tournament that I was running was the idea of terrain. And one of the things that was nice to see is people realizing how much terrain you need to run a tournament. And this is something, if you're not a tournament organizer, you don't really have an appreciation for. You know, you go to the tournament, you're like, wow, there's way too many forests, or there's not enough terrain, or I can't believe they don't have any walls, or they don't have this, or whatever, right? There's usually complaints about what the terrain is. But really, for the person hosting a tournament that's, you know, more than 20 people type thing, you need boxes upon boxes upon boxes of terrain. And so somebody just kind of asked me, like, oh, is all this terrain yours? And I was like, yeah, I got crates and crates of the stuff so I can actually run it. I even have like some 40K stuff that I was looking to get rid of, but now I'll just use it for War Machine at least, so it won't be totally wasted. Oh, I'm done painting this guy. I wish I could be working on something else. Another game I still have coming up is also, I've been talking about this a couple of times, the final game in the campaign with Kieran Dunleavy. So this is the massive Triumph and Treachery game. It's going to be hosted here, which allows me to kind of set up the table and stuff like that. The last time we did a Triumph and Treachery, the table was kind of small, and because of that, the poor fellows that were stuck in the center, they really had almost nowhere to deploy. And already then, that was an 8-foot board, so it wasn't like we're trying to play on something tiny. But when you have to be a foot away from everybody else, your room just disappears. And in this game here, we're each going to start with 2,000 points, but then for all the relics and cities and stuff that you've had over the course of the campaign, you now go and can use that. This shade of red is looking wrong. I really hope I'm not using the wrong gold. I think, no, I was talking about how this settles really quickly. I can actually see it on the model. At the bottom, it's more golden, but as it settled out, and I guess the gold flakes must be going down, there's more red above. Now at the top, this is more of a reddish gold, which clearly when I use this back here, it was more of a gold. Oh, crap. There's no way this is supposed to be shining gold. Now I've lost my train of thought again. I'm sorry, guys. I am really off my game today. Normally, I can just go and I can just speak for an hour and it's no problem, but between being tired... Now at the top, this is more of a reddish... Between being tired... Oh, and it's also saying it's starting to break up a bit, so great. We're also having tide. I'm just kind of thrown off. So anyway, they're kind of seeing here... War General T is that starting to break up a bit, so hopefully that's not going to be the case. The video I was trying to save is almost done. Maybe the wife downstairs, of course, now that she's running her own channel, we might be competing for usage of the internet, so maybe we're doubling up or something there. I'm also realizing that this is not going to be finished on time. And what am I going to do? If I fail to finish painting this thing, it's my painting challenge. You know, if I'm expecting others to paint stuff each month and I don't meet my quota, that won't look very good. To be honest, there's not really that much more. That's it. I'm going to have to talk myself into it. There's not much more left to paint. Sure, the top somehow is this weird, crazy red gold. But all the rest of this now is pretty good. Maybe I just need to shake it up more. And it's not too bad if they're, you won't really notice if they're side by side. But anyway, if I was not to do my part of this painting challenge, you know, obviously that's going to make everybody else think, you know, why would I care about doing the painting challenge? You know, Malorian's not doing it, and it's his baby. So why'd I bother? All right, but we did have other comments that I can talk about, so that's great. It's always good when you guys give me things you want me to talk about. Joshua James saying, double lore master for high elves. Thoughts? Now, the lore master is kind of interesting, and I mean, a lot of people wonder if it's even worth to take just one. And that's really because, you know, sure, you can have the signature of every single lore, but you know, really what you're giving up is that big old level 4, right? And making sure that you are getting the big crazy spells. So sure, it's nice to have things like wild form and all the rest of it, but it's a bigger deal to have some of these other things like Purple Sun or all the other really, really, really game-winning spells. The Lore Master is also kind of this mixed model where you're paying points for him to be kind of a combat guy as well. So in effect, those are usually points wasted unless you want to be really risky and having him somewhat on the front lines. So, but what the double lore master gives you is the ability to double up signature spells. And that's actually fairly significant. Now, when you only have the one lore master, sure, they have this massive toolbox of 8 different signature spells you can use. However, only one or so are good at a particular time, right? There's only a couple. So it's not like you can just really try and cast all of them at once. You have to kind of really go for certain ones. And really, if it's combat, oh, okay, they're going to be trying to stop wild form. And so they'll make sure to stop that one. And sure, you can get out something else silly, but for the most part, they know what they have to stop. The other problem, too, is if you go with Lore Master, is you have the issue of what am I going to do for my arcane item? Because, as we all know, the Dispel Scroll is really, really, really good. You pretty much should just be 1+ in every, well, 1, they can't do a plus, 1 in every single army. However, the High Elves have another amazing item, which is the Book of Hoeth. And especially when you're trying to cast a lot of small spells like the Lore Master can, having that Book of Hoeth is huge. And so you're always kind of left wondering, oh, what am I going to do? Am I going to take one item? Am I going to take 2? However, if you go double Lore Master, there really is no question. You just take both of them, and all of a sudden you have the one that can dispel the crazy spell when it comes up, and you have the other one that can really go crazy on his spells, right? When you're trying to go for these low casting spells, you can really get away with just throwing a 1 dice or 2 and know, oh, did something fail? Well, I'll just re-roll the lowest dice. And then the other part I was trying to get to before is the whole idea that you can double up those wild forms. So first off, if they try and stop it, well, I can just cast it again, right? And especially when you have the Book of Hoeth in there too, you really are going to be putting a lot of pressure on, because you don't have to throw very much at the first one to cast it, but they still have to throw their dice to dispel it. The other part is then all of a sudden you get what happens when you get them both off. So wild form on elves is pretty cool, you know, getting some toughness for elves. The strength can always be nice too, but when you start getting 2 off, and we're talking about toughness 5 elves with their strength 5 spears. You know, it's just really, really nuts. So, with that being said, there definitely are benefits to taking double lore master, and I'd say that if you want to take one, I would heavily look at taking two. However, that all being said, it is, of course, you're taking 2 lords or whatever. It is a big point investment, especially, of course, when we're talking the 2 lords. Of course, having gear on each as well. And I'm a guy that likes taking very little in characters. You know, for me, a level 4 to BSB, good to go. And for high leadership armies like the High Elves, hell, I am fine going with no BSB and just having the 1 general, right? I think that's completely legitimate and a perfect way to run an army like that. You know, your regular guys, we're not talking Night Goblins with leadership 5. We're talking your regular guys having leadership 8. You know, that's pretty dependable. Plus, your elves, your elite fighty elves, should not be losing combat much. So it's not very often that they even need to take tests. Sometimes you'll be caught off guard when they're charging you with a terror causer or something like that. But for the most part, it just should be a non problem. And then, of course, you always have the general there anyway, right? You have your Archmage, which would be leadership 9. So all of a sudden, even then, it's like, well, come on, it's leadership 9. You really shouldn't have to worry. Save those points, get something else. You know, you're already in a low model count army. Why are you making it even worse by putting a massive chunk of your points into 2 models? So probably the build that would do double lore master best is actually a Death Star list. So if you're going to take the 1 massive unit of, be it Sword Masters or Phoenix Guard or White Lions, where it's just going to be a massive unit with Banner of World Dragon and blah, 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 all the trimmings, that's probably where you want to start looking at this double lore master. Because, you know, if you're going to need them to fight anyway, because it's 1 block, they are good fighters. You are doing a good amount of point denial. You're getting all those spells in. Whenever you need to get buffs, you can double up your buff spells onto your Death Star. So that's probably going to be a spot or the way that you'd actually want to use it. War General T saying, would you ever do double Vanguard units for dwarves? Thoughts on 246 Gyroopters? First, the Vanguard idea. The Vanguard idea on dwarves is cute, whereas before you were really kind of stuck to be far back. I mean, you could make an army based around rangers and miners and stuff like this, and really kind of go, what was it, the Strolla's rune, get up there really quick and get in there. The problem with this is that dwarves have war machines, and they have very good war machines. And you would be remiss to ignore that and say, hey, let's jump into combat as fast as we can. You know, you might as well be taking advantage of your advantages. So whereas you can vanguard up and do all these crazy things, I really just don't see it as something that you want to be doing often, especially now where we're moving into an area where you have to be dealing with the Demon Prince, maybe double Demon Prince, dealing with Nagash and all this other stuff. You do not want to be vanguarding across the table. You need to spend the turns you have available to you to try and shoot those things down and try and get that not only point advantage in the beginning, but also just taking off those key units. You know, a Warriors of Chaos army with the Demon Prince minus the Demon Prince due to shooting is way, way, way easier to deal with. You know, they are way down in points. Their magic is sometimes always gone if that's their primary magic caster. a lot of times, they got their chimeras, they'll be around it, and then all of a sudden they'll be fleeing too. You just have to have those things on the table. Otherwise, what are you going to do? Okay, I went up with my hammerers. No, hammerers are awesome. Well, yeah, except, if they're just going to be hitting on sixes, and then they're just going to be killed like crazy by this demon prince just slaughtering them and thunder stomping them. Sure, you'll be stubborn, but by the end of the game, they're going to finish you off. So really what I'm getting to is I don't like it. I probably put too much into explaining why, but it's something where once in a while for fun I would pull it. There's a local guy called Big Mike. He's really big into dwarves, and he's done that a few times. He actually did it to me, and really caught me off guard when he did that to me. All of a sudden, dwarves vanguarding up, and it's like, whoa! I didn't expect this to be happening. But for the most part, competitively, I don't see it as the right thing to do. Now, the second part of the question was on gyrocopters. And 2, 4, 6, how many of these gyrocopters do you take? Because the book gives you a lot of options to take a lot of gyrocopters. Plus, you can do gyro bombers as well, right? If you take all the possible gyrocopters and then take the gyro bombers as well, like you have this massive, crazy flying force going for you. Now, there is kind of a point where it gets overly silly, where you just have too many points in these things. But then again, they're also fairly cheap, so you can take a couple of them no problem. You also have to worry about what happens if I take a bunch of gyrocopters and then I'm up against Warriors of Chaos who don't really care about it. Just a bunch of big toughies that you're not going to be redirecting really. You're not going to be affecting a demon prince with your little spray template too badly. But really, to me, I'd say 2 is the minimum. They are fantastic for redirecting. They are fantastic for destroying elves and blocks, even rushing war machines. So they are so good and so cheap. I would say in every single game, you want to have at least 2 gyrocopters. Now, how far do you go past that? Do you want to go to 3? Do you want to go 4? Do you actually want to go all the way to the absolute max? I think that really depends. Then, of course, I have to go to the whole what's your metal like. For me, I don't like going up to 6 because, like I said, what happens if you face an army that doesn't really care about gyrocopters? Then all of a sudden that can be a lot of points wasted. Let's say you go up against Skaven and there's a Storm Banner, right? You think like, oh, Skaven, I'd love to have a spray gun. Oh, Storm Banner, we're all ruined. So I wouldn't want to invest too many points into it. And so for the most part, that means to me, 4 of them is the most I'd like to go. Again, if you get bored, you can always go crazy, and you can go for the full allotment and take the gyro bombers and all the rest of those. And they can be devastating, right? If you go up against the right type of army that just can't deal with gyrocopters, you are just going to fly around, and it's almost going to be like a wood elf type thing where you can't catch me, and I'm just going to fly to your side and whoosh, take off your infantry by the handful. Then all of a sudden you're going to play that other army, let's say Dark Elves, right? Some Dark Elf builds or High Elf builds. I mean, again, they're really good against Elves, but if they take a type of Elf build that has lots of repeater bolt throwers and a lot of crossbowmen with shields and all the rest of it, they can destroy those things before they really do a lot of damage. So you do have to keep that in mind. I still do wish I could take a dwarf with the flying carpet. When I first heard about the flying carpet, I had this idea for a flying dwarf that I'd modeled to be like Thor. Because, I mean, he goes perfect with the whole dwarf theme. But unfortunately, you can't do it. Maybe the new book. I guess even the new book, if they came out with ninth and had all their items, it wouldn't even matter. Dwarves still don't have access to the main rule book. Unless it was something in the new book that actually said all armies have access to this. That'd be really cool. But dwarves have so many options. They don't need them. I mean, I'm a dwarf player, and I'll admit, I mean, there's some dwarf players out there that argue and say, well, we're really screwed over because we don't have access to the main items. Well, come on. You got so much available to you, so many different combinations. You have nothing to complain about, dwarf players. Nothing whatsoever. What else do we got here? We'll refresh it. Nope, wrong one. Still loading, loading, loading. Come on, questions. Seems like the questions disappeared. Oh, well, we'll go back to this for a while. So we are going pretty good. We're almost done all the gold now. Da-da-da. And once the gold is done, I have a darker silver to do. But for the most part, that's the last color. So we are getting close to the end of this. This is going to be a long Paintisode, though. You know, we're already past an hour, and I still have lots to do. But that was good. I mean, that was what I was talking about, is that these Paintisodes are great for me, too, because when you guys give me good topics that I can just yap about, all of a sudden, you know, half an hour goes by, and my model's almost painted. So that's why I love doing these. It'll be good, too. I mean, if we start getting more shows like this that you can do it too, I kind of wonder at some point whether I'd want to stop the Paintisodes, mainly because of enough other stuff going on. I mean, when Warhammer Weekly came and they're doing their thing, and other people are starting to do some shows as well, a lot of them didn't hold on very long. But I was starting to wonder, like, okay, well, that's great. The community is doing all these things. Maybe I can step back, let them do their show, and I'll just paint while watching theirs. Like recently, Materium did their narrative one with him and his boys, and answered some of the questions that I sent them. You know, because he just asked, hey, give us some topics, and I just throw them out there. Not all the questions were completely answered. I did have some more technical things in there saying, you know, first of all, starting with their fluff, saying if you're making a special character from the books that isn't actually in the game, you know, which one would you pick, what rules, blah, blah, blah. You know, that was easy enough for them to come up with. But then when I asked, you know, like, how many points would it be, that's not something they really want to get into. Now, I remember I screwed up something. Right, the black. I had to touch up the black. That's one of the problems of doing one of the colors too long, is that you start doing it and then you forget all the touch-ups you need to come back to. I see that our viewers jumped up. We must be getting to the time zone now where, I don't know if we're getting to Europe and they're starting to wake up, and hey, Valorian's here. Can watch them for breakfast. Yeah. There's also, oh right, the little wire on the gun I gotta paint. Silly details, slowing me down. Can I just make this thing silver and be done? So anyway, I had the friend over today for board games. That's again the reason why I thought I wouldn't be able to do a Paintisode at all. We play games like Dominion and Ultimate Werewolf and stuff like that. But one of the things that he was talking about was more about the, what are they called? The 3D printers. Because he himself is going to be, he's a teacher, and he was looking to hopefully run a class on the 3D printer. So what you'd be doing, yeah, Whoopi Wampus is saying that I don't know if I got his post, but Warhammer Weekly would be start mid-October with you as the new like co-host. And yeah, so okay, that is the new Warhammer Weekly, but I'm also, I mean, eventually I would assume that the plan is the old gang would get back together. I mean, maybe I was wrong, but I thought I was just going to help to fill things in until it comes back with you guys, like the old crew going on. But we'll have to kind of see. Tyler, of course, he's now in the UK. Haven't heard anything about him for a long time. Got married, got a new job, did all these things. You know, the whole group's growing up. That's the problem. Nick is, you know, going off on vacation, and he's married, and, you know, commitments and stuff like that. So it's all right. Me and Whoopi will take care of you. We'll come up with some topics to talk about. Oh, and plus the things too, where we review different people's paintings and stuff like that. So that'll be good. So now I'm just making sure what other details I forgot to paint. I just have to do the darker silver. Trying to get some of these details. I'm such a lazy painter. When I was at this, okay, I'm not going to jump topics. We got to finish off the 3D printers first. So we will get it back to me being a lazy painter, but he was going to be doing a course on 3D printers, and it was going to be really neat because basically it's like an AutoCAD course, but you get something at the end of it, right? You design whatever you want, and then at the end of the day, assuming that it's not something illegal, they print it off. I just wiped off the paint there. But of course, he's a gamer. He used to play the different systems, and he was already thinking as well, wow, you could very easily just print off these models. And at first, when this came up, there were the ideas of, well, sure, you could print off models, but you can't really at the quality that other places do. But the quality of these 3D printers keep on going up and going up. And so it just gets more and more possible. And it really isn't that expensive to do either. Whereas before, maybe it was a little bit more expensive. Now, to get, you know, a little model, it'll be like a $1 worth of stuff. And so you basically buy these. Sorry, I'm just making sure where I have to put the paint. Buy these, what do you call it, like reels or whatever of the plastic or resin that you'd be using for it. You do that, and yeah, you make these little models for just about $1 each. So maybe that's GW's way of trying to stop it, is by trying to make models like Nagash that, sure, you probably could 3D scan and print, but the smallest problem will make the model unstable, and try and get in so much detail as possible that, again, you probably don't want to bother trying to scan this thing and doing all this crazy stuff because, hey, you know, this model is so fine detail that if you actually want your model to look good, you'll want to buy the official GW version. Well, man, it's hard to argue with the wallet. Would I do it? When I worked in Fort McMurray, I'd say no. Now might be more tempted. But to be more fair, I probably wouldn't. You know, when all these guys go to models like from Mantic and stuff, and hey, you can get all these slayers from here, it's something special to me. It's like these GW paint. I know I can get paint all over the place. I know that a lot of other paints get better ratings and things. I don't care. This is a GW paint that I'm going to use in my GW model, and it's just something I'm doing because it feels like what I'm supposed to be doing. So as far as, oh, you know, I want another unit of orcs, I'm just going to 3D print another horde of savages, I wouldn't be doing that. And honestly, if somebody was to bring a 3D printed army to a tournament, I would be raising my eye at them. Other companies like Privateer Press, the way that they get around that stuff is they say a certain percentage of the model has to be from Privateer Press. So you can't really just go and, you know, completely convert and take something from 40K and say, oh yeah, this will be a Defender or whatever you want. No, no, no. You have to actually use what you're supposed to be using. But I expect to be seeing this more and more in different armies, so we will see how much it comes up. Now, me talking about being a lazy painter again. I was at that tournament, and wow, so many great-looking armies. I mean, just all these armies that people put hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on, and there's my crap. Some of the stuff I was using wasn't even painted because it was a tournament where it didn't need to be. I had some stuff I wanted to test out. And meanwhile, here are these guys where it's like, wow, you just look at some of these models, and they just look amazing. And it's just that extra thing it brings to the game, right? When you play against these great-looking armies, and you know, to be fair, it doesn't even need to be a great-looking army, just done. When there's no gray, no silver, it looks like an army. It's like I said, where the reason why I still enjoy fantasy is that whole idea of the grand scale of it, of the army. And you don't get that from War Machine. War Machine is a skirmish game. Fantasy, that's a one where armies get together. But when you paint the models, you just get more of that feel of the army. It's not just a collection of gray plastic and silver metal that you decide to throw down. How much of that's supposed to be silver? Just that. All right. I always love it when the last part of the model paints up quickly. I was just realizing, too, we watched 3 seasons of Game of Thrones this month. No wonder I didn't get anything done. All right, let's clean off that brush, and we'll check for updates again. I am tired. I don't know what time it is there for you guys, but it's 11:30 for me. I know for some of you guys watching, like Whoopi, if he's still here, it's probably like 12:30 for him. It's already tomorrow. John Telby saying, thanks for doing this. You gave me something to listen to on the bus ride home. Bus ride home, holy, wonder where you are and how late that is, or early. Would you use Lore of Undeath with your high elves? Yes. That is a spot where I do have a support mage. I have the level 4 on the Moon Dragon, and then I also have the Dragon Mage, the little level 1 guy. And that level 1 could very easily use the Lore of Undeath. And whereas normally he just kind of throws out the odd fireball, you know, if I really want to be aggressive with my dragons and phoenixes and set them up for a combo charge, but I don't want to be charged by you, well, my magic phase, raise up some skeletons. Doesn't need to be much, just enough that you can't get a direct charge on my unit. So that'd be a very nice spot to use it. Now, if I wanted to do that, I would have to buy the cards. I would have to buy some skeletons again. And I just don't want to get into that because once I do, it's one of these things that just escalates and escalates, and I need to buy more and more and more. And no, that's why I sold that stuff to kind of cut off the head. Did not trust myself and said, nope, all that stuff, get out of here because I know I'll go broke if I don't. So next up, come on. More from Whoopi here. So if you'd like to advertise that, you could. Also, if Monday became trouble, we could totally work something out. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, there's two ways we could either balance this Hammer Bros and Warhammer Weekly thing. We could either make it like try and find different times of the same day. So if one show happens first, then another. I know on Twitch a lot of guys do that. So there's Painting with Menoth John, which will lead straight into another show, right? And so they'll actually balance it that way. And the idea is okay, like Mondays, it or whatever day they do. This is painting night, and be ready that okay, first you'll go to this channel, then come over to this one, and then this one, and in the end, it's all arranged so that you can have hours and hours of content just to watch, and it's not just one guy having to carry it for the entire time. So we'll figure something out. Another idea too is that really, if we did do the Warhammer Weekly on this channel and made it on the Monday, we could always just use that to replace the Paintisode, because really, no matter whether I'm sitting here and painting and yapping, or I'm sitting here with Whoopi and we're yapping, it still is something for you to listen to and paint your models. So that is something we could do. Of course, if I start having 2 days, like let's say if I did Paintisodes every Monday and then the Warhammer Weekly every Wednesday, you know, it starts taking up the week, and I have to start worrying about the wife and the time it takes from there. So I don't know. Whoopi, we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. We still got a few weeks to get this figured out here before what should be our first show. Joshua James saying, does the Mordheim video game intrigue you at all? Nope. Mordheim is one of those games I just never got into. Some guys have trying to convince me to give it a try, but no, I just have no interest in the game. It's not that I think that and right now I'm talking about the board game, like the tabletop game. It's not that I think there's anything wrong with the rules, and a lot of the models look really interesting. However, I just don't want to get into another game system. 2 is enough. And as far as getting into the video game, it's just like the universal battle. It's just not something I really get into, you know. All these games that are built off of what the tabletop is like, I just keep on thinking like, well, why don't I just be doing it just on the tabletop? Same thing goes for board games, right? I know some people do Small World or Scrabble or whatever on the computer, and to me, it's just like, well, you could get your fill there, but if I got my fill of War Machine or fantasy from Universal Battle, would I ever bother going to a tournament? You know, why would I go to a tournament and spend all this money to play there if I could just stay home and do a tournament there, right? Why would I go to the store to play against guys there when I could just go onto my computer and play there? So what I'm really getting at is that a big part of this hobby is the social aspect. And if you replace that by saying, hey, we're just going to go and do this all on the computer, it just feels like you're taking away the best part of it. So, you know, you could disagree. I know there's lots of people that like Vassal, like Universal Battle, and again, you can also see them as just separate things, right? Just because you like something on the computer doesn't mean you don't play it on the tabletop as well. Many, I know, like, what was his name? Man, I can't remember his name now. Tom Richards. He used it mainly for trading, so he was very competitive, and he would use Vassal to practice out his lists, practice out strategies, and so the two were supportive of each other. So, you know, that's always a way you can do it too. But to me, I just can't do it. Plus, I'm also not very big into the video games. It's also just a thing there too, where I already have so many requirements of my time between fantasy and War Machine and painting and being a dad and being basically the maid around here sometimes too. I'm that type of dad. I'm the dad that I'm the one in charge of the dishes. I'm the one in charge of the laundry. My wife has a good, easy time. She heard that I'd be dead. She probably did hear it. I think she's behind me. She does lots of stuff too. But what I was getting at, as I rambled off about that, was just the idea that I just don't have time for the video games. You know, back when I used to play video games, we're talking Diablo 2. You know, we're not talking anything too fancy here. You know, it was pretty soon after that I decided to dedicate myself more to Warhammer Fantasy than the video games, which I'm sure you guys appreciate. All right, so we're done the dark silver, I think. I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to see the spot that I missed or something. But I got a little black touch-up from where I accidentally rubbed off the paint. This is also a problem, is that if this was my only defender, I could just paint this however I wanted, and I wouldn't even care if it was wrong. I mean, if it doesn't match other stuff, who cares? But now I have to actually make sure it matches my other defender. So I'm going to look at my old one first to make sure I can see all the details. And I'm saying that as if I was a fancy painter that did lots of different details. And I'm not seeing anything so far that's not matching. Except for, of course, the wash. Some of the gold on the hammer isn't right. I can fix that. Man, what time is it now? 11:30. Ugh. I'll be dead at work tomorrow. All right. I have to do the wash on this guy, but otherwise, I think we're done. So this has been a really interesting Paintisode. I started off thinking, yay, I'm going to talk about this, this, and this, and then we'll have a good time. And then all of a sudden I'm knocking out the light and all the rest of it. My nose is running. But thank you guys for joining in and watching this kind of, oh no, my wash is dead. You know what? I'm going to show you guys how to make the Molorian wash. So just a second. First of all, I got this old pot. This is what they used to be in. So it's almost empty now. And one thing I noticed is that a lot of guck kind of builds on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to wash this thing out, fill it almost to the top with water, and I'll be right back. So again, I'm walking away from the screen again. It's a good thing I put pants on for the show. All right. So I filled this back up with water. I'm going to move away my other models while I do this. Now I'm going to take some Games Workshop Black, shake it up, open it up, and then I'm going to take my big brush and I'm going to take a big old scoop of black. Just a big old, look at that. It's just gobbed on there. And then I'm just going to go and I'm going to shake it in. All right. Shake it in, shake it in, shake it in. I'm going to wipe off the excess. Then I'm going to take my brush, my black, and I'm going to take another big old blob of black. And I'm going to mix it in. And at this point here, this is where we're at the finer part of this process, where now I decide, is this enough, or do I need a third big blob? And I could do a little test model area. Maybe I'll do it on my table here a bit. That's looking okay. I can do a little bit more. We'll do 2.5 blobs. So you can see there, that's clearly half a blob that we're going to mix into this pot. Mix, 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 mix. Mix it all up into there. And there you have your professional Malorian black wash. There's a little extra. You know, you guys thought we were done. You thought this Paintisode was over. We're all going home. No, no, no. I'm giving out the family secrets now. You know, here I was just going to pass this on to my son. He'd pass this on to his son. He'd like put it into a tome and bury it underneath the pyramid. But no, now you guys get to know about this secret wash. So shake up even more. And this is where I know that I didn't clean it out enough because there's some foam on the top. And what it is like the water here in Alberta is hard. And what I mean by that is it's not an ice joke. It's talking about how we have lots of minerals in our water. It's kind of the same reason of like why we have lots of oil here and stuff. But unfortunately, all those extra minerals, when I'm taking tap water to make my washes, gets into here. And if you leave that, it does like this gray slime after your wash. And that's not so good. All right. Now the moment of truth. There's been times I've made this wash, go to put it on my model and realize, wow, that thing is just too watered down. There's almost no now shading at all. Or other times it's like, huh, that's all black. I'm also having a brush that's almost have no brush anymore. So anyway, moment of truth. It's not bad. So I took too much in the first brush, so it's all watering all over the place, but it's not a bad wash. This is a good one. So we'll finish this off. But yeah, so kind of just finishing up these things here. Do look forward to that in a couple of weeks. Me and Whoopi Womp will be doing more of a more set show of the Warhammer Weekly. And really the difference between the shows is, whereas this one really is completely unprofessional, I just randomly grab some models, start talking, and hope that I get some topics to talk about. That one there will be back to grabbing people's pictures. If you paint something up and you want us to show it off on the show, you can send it to us, and we'll, you know, first of all, show everyone your great work, and then we'll try and give you some tips as well. You might want to ignore my painting tips because I'm not exactly the ace painter. You know, you might want to listen to some of the other guys. We'll be having. I left that part up to Whoopi Womp. I said, you know what? If you want to be having other people on the show, other guests and stuff, you go ahead and arrange all that. And the nice thing is, from this Hammer Bros show that they just did, him and Aaron Zaid, they just had Once Bitten on there, like I was talking about at the start of the show. So clearly, he can get the guests. You know, Once Bitten, he's not exactly, you know, on a lot of shows there, right? Like Lord Tremendous, he's been on a lot of shows. Anthony, he's done his fair share. You know, there's other guys that have been on a lot of shows like Materium and stuff. So guys that just like doing that type of thing. But Once Bitten, he's not usually into this type of thing. I mean, he for a while there, he did kind of a show with what was his name? Jerry from his area, talking about the tournaments there and stuff like that. But it looked like that didn't really work out. He's more of probably of a lone wolf that wants to talk about his reports and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, if he can bring on all those guests, who knows what we'll be talking about. But I have this interesting idea where what I want to do with some of these things is it turns out I'm really good at being an asshole. And so one of the easiest things I could do for a topic when I have guests on the talk about is that you start off, like always, talking to your guest and getting to know them. Oh, hey there, so and so. Who are you? How did you get into the hobby? What was your first army? What are you playing now? What do you love about that army? And what do you do then? Is you take all the things that they say that they like and turn them around, and basically you play devil's advocate, but really just kind of take it to the extreme. So if they say, oh, I love Skaven. Skaven's so great. They have all these different things, blah, blah, blah. Love the fluff. All of a sudden I can come in here and say, like, so, why is the help and abomination so broken? Should it be actually a lot more points? Do you think it should be taking away the random movement? Because that really isn't fair, or whatever, right? Why is their lore so broken? Is it really fair that you can just turn that unit in the Watchtower into a unit of Skaven and then just win last turn? And the best thing about doing that is that you're going to bring up conversation, because you're specifically attacking something that they enjoy and that they like, and so they're going to defend it. It's just natural. Well, no. It's the help and abomination is fair because we really need it. Otherwise, we can't deal with this and this and this. Oh, no. I mean, everybody's supposed to have their weaknesses. Why should you have? Anyway, you could do a lot of stuff like that. So we'll kind of see. That could be kind of fun. Me being a jerk to everybody. But, yeah, that only took me an hour and 40 minutes. But glad to have that done. So I got 2 defenders now. Showed you guys how to make the wash. I'm going to see if there's any last questions while I was rambling on about how I'm good at being a jerk. No, that looks like that's it. There's nothing else on here. So for you guys that came on and watched this, first of all, thank you, because I know it was later. I know I said I wasn't going to be doing this one today. For those who decided to stay around while I had to deal with my stupid light issue and all the rest of it, either way, I'd love to hear what you guys were painting. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the whole universal battle, whether you plan to do in the tournament or what your thoughts are there. And then otherwise, I'll catch you later. So thanks for watching. Bye.